Top 10 Goku fights in Dragon Ball Z. Like the Dragon Ball series in general. My top 10. So at number 10, I got Goku versus Hit during the Universe 6 versus Universe 7. And it was Hit that he had to fight, right? He's a time stopper. He's a time hopper. He's a time skip. So basically, he can freeze Goku there, and then Goku, gets hit by his attacks, and he's like, "Whoa, you know, I'm not even getting able to, I don't know how I'm like missing him or anything like that." He had to figure out that it was a time skip technique. And then he had to anticipate where he would be, and also he had to get faster too. So he had to use Kaioken times 20 on top of the blue, and like that's where he learned that form, like truly how to use that form. And he had to use that Kaioken on top of Super Saiyan Blue to get an edge on Hit. Tried to get him out of the ring and other things, but he ended up losing that fight, you know. But it was well fought battle, and it was like the best one, like out of all of them, I think. Like maybe Vegeta versus Kaiba, but I don't think so. Like out of that, like Goku, like it was the best one in that arc. So then I got a number 9 though. I got Goku versus Kefla. When she did the fusion, it was kale and cauliflower, and they did the fusion to create Kefla. And she was, actually one of the more powerful people in the field at that point. And they used the Patara fusion because Champa was like, I need, people to fuse together so we have an edge in this tournament. I don't remember if Fit was like knocked out at that point or not, but I think he was. And that's why they were like, you girls have to like eat cause fusing real quick. And then they did, and then Goku had a fight against him. He went into unmastered Ultra Instinct to defeat them. They were kind of pushing him a little bit. I believe they went into Super Saiyan 2 state as well, um, to like push Goku. A fused warrior that was a female did that. So I was like, all right, this is cool, and they're all right, I guess. I don't know if they'll ever show up again, but Goku had to, do a little bit of extra work. MUI. He only used MUI on like 2 people, her and like Jiren. He didn't use MUI on anybody else, so that was worth like talking about on this. Um, and like it was only him fighting against her too. Like that's the thing about these fights. It's just Goku versus, he had a little bit of help, but not much. Like in any of these fights, not too much. He was carrying these fights for sure. And 8, Goku versus Tien, back in Dragon Ball. He was the best student of Master Roshi, and Tien was the best student of the Crane style of martial arts. Master Roshi's rival, who believed in offensive fighting, and whoever had the most power was the best martial artist. Not so much why we do martial arts is to defend ourselves against so and so opponent and other things. Roshi had the actual lessons behind things, whereas Shen or whatever the fuck his name was didn't. He just wanted to teach, you can beat that guy's ass. You're more powerful than him. Make sure you do that, or he'll bring shame to our dojo. And he was like, "Don't worry, I can beat this boy named Goku, who everybody else is, somehow afraid of or weaker than. But I'll expose him for what he is." But Goku, fought a great fight against Tien. Tien had like the ability to like use like images. Um, he was able to like spout up arms. He had fucking Tri Beam. He pulled out all of his moves on Goku, and Goku was like meeting him there. And they went up into the sky, and then eventually, Goku did hit the ground first. That's what basically caused Goku to lose the match. But after the match was over, Tien had a newfound respect for Goku, and not just Goku, but Master Roshi as well. And he was like, I'll, start taking the martial arts right. It's not about that, but it's more about defending yourself, and not just yourself, but other people who are weaker, the people you care about. And that's what he learned fighting Goku. And then, it was a great lesson. And then Goku learned that he had a little bit more to go before he could win a martial arts tournament. Number 7 is Goku versus Frieza during the movie, that movie, Revival of F. Because Frieza came back to life and he was like, okay, let me be a little smarter now that I'm back. I can't just sit on my ass and just expect that, like, this monkey hasn't trained all this time. And he learned that he defeated Majin Buu and other things, so he's like, oh shit, then I guess I do have to train a little bit. I can't just, sit back and expect my power level right now to be enough. So he trained for a little bit and then he came back to Earth. And when he did that, he was able to defeat Gohan, who was like the most powerful there. And then Vegeta and Goku they were on Whis. They were with Whis and Beerus, and they were training to learn, Super Saiyan Blue. And then they showed up in Super Saiyan Blue. Vegeta really wanted to fight Frieza. Goku was like, "Hey man, he's calling me out because I was the one who he fought, and he really likes to fight me, not you." And he's like, "All right, whatever. But if you, fuck up, then I get to, fight him." And they fought against each other. It looked like they were like evenly matched, but then Goku, remarked, he was like, "Yo, you didn't train enough, like in that form. Basically, when you obtained this form, you came here like so excited to fight me, but you weren't able to like hold that form for too long. You didn't truly master that form yet. Like I have mastered this form." And he's like, "Oh yeah, whatever, da 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 da." And he got shot, and then Vegeta stepped in to fight, and Vegeta, was playing games a little bit with his food, if you will. He didn't kill Frieza in time, and he destroyed the planet. But then, temporal do over like, I don't know, 5 seconds or some shit, a minute, got Goku enough time to destroy Frieza again with the Kamehameha in blue. That's how he defeated Frieza the second time. And then I got at number 6, I got Goku versus Kid Buu. I know Vegeta was there, but he wasn't doing too much. It was Goku's attacks that were like doing the most. You know, Super Saiyan 3 popped out after Vegeta or Goku was fighting in Super Saiyan 2. Then he was like, okay, I'm going to Super Saiyan 3 and start fighting this boy then. And they were fighting against each other, and then he was like, I have to get the Spirit Bomb made. And then, Vegeta did his thing for like a couple minutes. And then, he got that Spirit Bomb made. He threw that shit. He had to summon the, powers from like the whole universe. Essentially. They were like, to stop this threat. Because that boy Majin Buu, Kid Buu, was playing games too much with people's lives. Like on all planets. And he even pulled up on like Otherworld too, to try to like kill people there. And then they were like, we have to defeat this evil, this pure evil that's Kid Buu. And they all put their hands up and they're like, okay, Goku has to do this shit. But then they had to use the Dragon Balls too. He did get help during this fight, but it was mostly Goku doing shit. I keep telling y'all, it was his move that he learned from King Kai, and he pushed that move back down on Kid Buu, and he wished him, that he would come back as a better person and they could fight again, because Goku likes to do shit like that to his enemies. But he knew Buu was too fucking evil. So he like, I hope you like come back as a better person. And that's what happened. And that's how, he met Oob eventually. And he, started training Oob eventually after that, like years after. But number 5, I got Goku versus Beerus. Beerus the Destroyer. I heard about Goku after sleeping for like a couple years, a couple hundred years, whatever. Not even 100 years. It was like about 30 years because, he was alive when, Vegeta was a kid on Planet Vegeta. So he was like, okay, what's happened in these past couple years? He was like, well, Frieza was defeated by a guy named Goku, and also Majin Buu was defeated by a guy named the same, Saiyan. He's like, what's that form right there? I don't remember Saiyans being able to use that. And Whis was like, that's Super Saiyan. That's the form they call Super Saiyan. And he's like, I heard of a thing called Super Saiyan God. Is that what that is? He's like, I'm not so sure. And he's like, I don't sense any like divine ki from this guy. And he was able to pull up on Goku on King Kai's planet. King Kai was like, Goku, you can't play games with this person. He's the most powerful person in this universe besides his angel. He'll destroy planets like whenever he feels like it. Because he's the god of destruction. That's his power. That's what he exists to do. Destroy planets where life forms are not evolving at a certain rate and other things. And if he deems them not worthy enough to exist, then they'd be erased. And then Goku was like, all right, I'll fight him. And then Super Saiyan 3 couldn't do shit. So then he had to they had to learn about the Saiyan ritual to summon the Super Saiyan God and all 5 Saiyans, Vegeta, Trunks, and Goten, and Gohan, and then Pan was inside of Videla's stomach. And they all surrounded Goku and gave him power so he can turn into Super Saiyan God. Fight against Beerus, but he was able to, also fight against Beerus in his Super Saiyan form because it wore off. Because he couldn't hold the Divine Ki for too long. But Beerus did, basically win. But he was like, since you showed you wanted to fight me and fight for survival, I'll let you people live. And this planet has great food, so there's no need to destroy it. There's other planets in this universe I can erase real quick. And that's how that ended in that situation. But he did lose that fight. Number 4, but he also won too. But number 4 is Goku versus King Piccolo when he was apparently he was 16 during this fight. That's what some guy said. I think he was younger than that, but Goku pulled up on King Piccolo after he, killed Krillin, but then he got defeated and then he had to go somewhere to train a little bit. And then Tien was fighting against King Piccolo. King Piccolo was, making work of Tien. He had drum or no. I think it was drum. I'm dumb. One of his creations fighting against him. And then Piccolo was like, I'll defeat you and then no one can stop me. And then Goku showed up. And he's like, this brat right here. And he was using his power pole and everything. And Tien and Goku had to fight against him for a little bit. But it was mostly Goku putting in most of the work, like I said. And he was having to protect Tien and other shit. So Goku was actually being held back by that. Because Piccolo even grabbed his head after he destroyed the city and he was like, I'll kill your friend right here if you don't stand down. And Goku was like, damn, and then he got his arm broke and his leg almost broken. Then he went up in there and he was like, I've won. And then Goku ran through him, he shot through him with his Saiyan reserve energy, and it came through and he popped through his chest. And then King Piccolo birthed Piccolo, and that leads into number 3, which is Goku versus my junior Piccolo, the one that you know about. That's in Dragon Ball Z and all that. So 3 years had passed, and then Goku had trained with Kami, and he lost his tail and shit because Kami was like, we'll get rid of this shit because we don't need you turn into no Zaro state. And he's like, okay, yeah, And he got taller and more powerful. He met Chi-Chi again and his friends, and they were like, cool, Goku's powerful. And Kami even showed up there, and he was like, I don't know, that's my, the son of my second half, or my other half. And he's basically my other half, but he's younger and even more powerful than King Piccolo was, because he had a rapid development. He was a 3-year-old basically that is that of an adult, my age, as far as power goes, experience, and all that shit. So he was ready to fuck shit up, and Goku was like, okay, I'll have to stop him real quick. And they were basically really on par with each other. He turned big, and Goku had to use a Kamehameha, a powerful Kamehameha, one that they never seen before. And then he went up into the sky and he destroyed the city, destroyed the stadium almost too. But it was still there. They could see who was in the stadium or who was in the ring and who was out the ring. And then Goku thought he had defeated Piccolo. Then he got up and shot him in the chest, stepped on his chest, and it was like, I won. Then Goku went up into the sky when, Piccolo was running his mouth. Then he came down with that headbutt, like, boom! Like, in main character anime fashion, and hit him in the head, like, boom! Or hit him with his headbutt, and Piccolo was like, oh, fuck, I have no energy left. I'm done. And then Kami was like, you have to kill this guy. But then Goku was like, no, give him the sense bean instead. And I'll, want to see him fight again some other day. Because this guy was actually cool to fight against. And then he was like, he'll regret that. But then, Dragon Ball Z happened and other shit happened. And Piccolo became a good person eventually. But number 2 is Goku versus Frieza on Namek. There was a lot leading up to this fight. Goku's home world was destroyed by Frieza, you know. But, more so Vegeta knew about that pain more than Goku did. Goku just didn't want Frieza to, fucking destroy worlds anymore. And he saw Vegeta as a friend after Vegeta told him some shit, and he was like, God damn. And he died, too, trying to defeat Frieza and other things. Frieza played games with Vegeta his life, and not just his life, but the Namekians and everybody else. And he was like, as a Saiyan from Earth, I will defeat you and shit and put you in the fucking ground. It's been a long time coming and other things. So then he, stood on that business against Frieza. At first Frieza was more powerful than him. So he was like, damn, I have to use a Spirit Bomb. Spirit Bomb came and they thought he was defeated. But then the, legendary Super Saiyan form came out, right? When, Krillin was destroyed, with one of Frieza's attacks, he came out of the water. And then when the Super Saiyan came, it was like all Goku from there. Like Frieza had no shot. Like Frieza's who? No. Goku was a Super Saiyan. And that was like the most, awesome moment in Dragon Ball Z history. Almost. Like I said, this is the second best fight in Dragon Ball Z in my eyes. And I said, it was like that though. People, when I saw it for the first time, I was like, damn, it took all that for Goku to pop off like that. And he did that, and Frieza had no chance. He defeated Frieza in time to get the fuck off the planet before it got destroyed. And yeah, that's number 2. But number 1, and this is you should have known this. Goku versus Vegeta during the Saiyan Saga. Because Vegeta came to Earth, and he was like, yeah, I'll destroy this planet, and you should have did this a long time ago. As a Saiyan, that's what you were born to do, conquer worlds. But something happened to you when you came here, and you're not acting like a Saiyan. And you're also not as good of a Saiyan as me, because I'm Vegeta, and I'm the Prince of all Saiyans. And I will prove to you that you're a weaker Saiyan than I am, and also I'll destroy your world, since you want to defend it so much. We could have had a da-da-da-da-da, and then Goku's like, no, I'll stop you right here. And they had a fight. They were enjoying it, not really, though. Vegeta wasn't enjoying it, because he was like, this guy's a low class. He can't beat me. I'm royalty and other things. I'm the Prince of all Saiyans, so that means that I'm more powerful than he is. Goku, learned Kaioken from King Kai, and he had to use that shit against Vegeta, and he was able to overpower Vegeta with it. And Vegeta was like in his base form, and he was like, this shit's ridiculous, there's no way that a low class could do that. And he almost shot him out of the atmosphere, and then he came back down in a Zoro state and other things, and then they all kind of jumped him. But Goku's like, let him get away, and he did the same thing he did to Piccolo. And then, the rivalry between Goku and Vegeta came from that. And then, they fought again later on, and they still fight against each other, but it's more to boost each other's strength, because they became friendly rivals and shit. He needed somebody else, since Piccolo wasn't on par with him anymore. And that is the top 10 Goku fights in Dragon Ball Z.